Hey everyone, it's me from Infinite Realms. My name's Robert, by the way, of course. I hardly ever introduce myself. Sorry about that. Anyway, I wasn't going to tell the story, my flood story, and then I just decided, well, it's a little unfair to the audience to say, hey, I was in this flood and not tell you what happened. So, where do I begin? Well, at the beginning. 2 in the morning, my wife wakes me up and says my car alarm's going off. Turns out she had heard a knock at the door, didn't know what it was. Turned out that was our next door neighbor. So I wake up saying, what do you mean my car alarm's going off? And I walk out and my car is turned around and the alarm is going off, which I found out later meant that water got into the electrical system. And you got to keep in mind that, first thing people say is, why do you live in a floodplain? And the thing is, I don't. The highest the water has ever gotten, this was a catastrophic flood several years ago. I mean, talking about more than 10 years ago. The biggest flood ever happened is if you see the pictures of my car, the water got into the driveway and up to the front tires. It didn't even touch my house because my yard's a little bit higher up. And, I mean, little water in the yard's all I ever see. I never saw anything like this before. This is unreal. The creek beside my house is maybe 3 to 4 inches deep and maybe 2 to 3 feet across. And it's way back there. It's like 50, 75 feet away from my house. So that gives you an idea just how big this was. This was huge. And it set records for this area. So it was 10 feet above the previous record set in 1957. So yeah, this was bad. And so we had no idea at this point. Our cell service was dead. Our power was still on. I was just completely shocked about my car and wondered what the heck I'm going to do. And my neighbors came by and they tell me, oh yeah, we were trying to wake you up. And it's like, okay. And, in my brain, I was so surprised. I didn't recognize that it was pouring outside. And so I got back on the porch and I was just like, man, what am I going to do about my car? And then, me and my wife are talking and suddenly the power goes out. And I'm like, holy crud, what's going on? And then, with flashlights, we find some flashlights and we look around and start realizing the water's coming up. And I'm like, wait a minute, the water doesn't come up here. What's going on? It's repeated shock after shock after shock. And then the water really gets high and it gets to the point it wraps around my house, which has never happened. And I'm like, well, we need to abandon the house. And my wife says, yeah. And she goes, wakes kids up, grabs them. We're getting to the door and it comes over the porch. And I suddenly realize we're trapped because it's coming in and going in front of my house. And the current's too strong to walk through. Again, this has never happened. I didn't expect it to do that. And so the water gets up and gets up and gets up. And finally it gets to the point where I can look through my screen door. I can see the water flowing. And it's not yet coming in my house. And finally a little trickle comes in. And my cat, Lola, who, in something that is hilarious in hindsight, walks over and tries to smack the water as if to say, no, you can't come in. So a little bit of water did get in the house. It was a very small amount. We had to throw away some Christmas ornaments. Some of my child's clothes had to be thrown away. And a rug in her room had to be thrown away. It was not a whole lot, and we did get it cleaned up pretty quickly, though. So, neither here nor there, finally the water started subsiding. We were without power and cell signal. We had no idea what was happening. We didn't know if it was just local, if it had spread. No information was coming in. And then it was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, finally, the cell service returned. And you could get text messages out. You couldn't make calls, but you could make text messages. And, quickly text message works, and they knew all about it. Apparently it was on the national news. We had no idea. And text messages my mom. My mom had no idea it was this catastrophic. She was very fortunate. Yeah, it got high. Water with her got high, but it didn't get too high to be dangerous. Then, it was just, then you just go about, okay, now what? My next door neighbor had passed away unrelated to this. She had a stroke and was in assisted living, and then passed away the next day, coincidentally, which I was kind of glad she never found out about her house. But it got up to the windows on her house. That house has stood for 70 years, has never been touched by floodwater. So again, I'm trying to give you the context of how big this was. It was huge. And, we've just been going about trying to clear debris, trying to deal with FEMA, which has been horrible. And I don't want to get into a bitchy mode about what that's like. But, yeah, they're not easy to deal with. And everything else, just been going through the motions for 3 weeks. The major damage to me was my back porch. Some of the boards got pushed up by the force of the water, and I'm going to have to replace it. Somehow it didn't come in the back door. I'm not sure how that didn't happen, but somehow it did not. The other big thing was my heat pump was submerged and it went out. And then right after that we get a heat wave, and that was hard to deal with. Thankfully we were able to get some fans. So we had to buy a few, and then some people donated us some. And then some really nice woman gave us an air conditioning unit. And then the other big thing was my tool shed, which had some furniture in it that was being stored temporarily, got swept up and got stuck wedged on a bridge. And nobody would come and help. Finally, some nice people with a chain and a big truck came in and pulled it out. Yes, it fell apart, disintegrated, but you know what? It's out of the creek, and there's not as big a danger of that jamming up like it did during the flood. So that's where I'm at. I'm clearing debris slowly. A lot of factors weigh in on how you clear the debris. I'm waiting on a chainsaw now because my chainsaw got destroyed, and and apparently they now do jack up the prices, so I had to order it online to get it at a reasonable price. So that's where I'm at now. I'm getting a little free time. I'm going to lay down some audio tracks today and do some new stuff. And I'm changing the formats up a bit, but I'll get into that later. But now you know my flood story. So, and you've seen pictures. Some of the town I live in, some are, of my house, and some are my car. So now you have an idea of what I've been through. But, thanks if you watching this and for the support. And I'm going to try to get videos up this week sometime, probably Wednesday. Can't guarantee anything, but, we'll see.